highest level of conscious awareness. Jesus Christ, Buddha, Zoroaster, and Krishna. 3 of them are from India. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Where am I going after this? And honestly, it all comes down to one big question of what is real.
Yogi words.
Exactly. Is breath, but also qi, like qigong. Qigong, one of the interpretations of that is literally breath work. Pneuma in Greece means breath. So we've known for a long time that breath is the key, not only to our health, but also to our ascension on our consciousness. And please correct me if I'm wrong, and everybody out there, chime in the chat if I get this part wrong. But from what I've read, the original yoga had nothing to do with asanas. They were not stretching. It was sitting quietly, sometimes for days, and only focusing on your breath and controlling your physical with your mind and being with your breath the entire time to attain samadhi, or the enlightenment state. And this is the original. This is before Iyengar brought, Hatha yoga to the United States, and everybody got into the fad. And then you've got Ashtanga, which is like CrossFit yoga, and was great for the
vinyasa.
Mm-hmm. But the original yoga, thousands of years ago, from what I've read, and what are your thoughts on that? It was just
so breath is so important. The most important part of the yoga flow is shavasana, when you're still and you're allowing your breath, right? I think, a few things you hit on there. First and foremost, the biggest dopamine hit you could have is understanding that you're a divine consciousness and that love is inside of you and radiating love outward without the want of expectation. To me, that's the biggest dopamine hit. And people don't understand that because there's always a want of reciprocity for something I do. Business, love. I want to not be judged, and I want to not respond to people's trauma, and I just want to show up with love. And nothing can change that, right? Breath is the giver of life. This body would not be functioning without breath. So in terms of connecting the divine to this mundane world, it is breath, right? So it is the giver of everything. I mean, look, what do these medicines do? We talk about Stan Grof, who was a Czech-Hungarian doctor who wasn't the founder of LSD, but was one of the studiers of it with his wife. And what they had realized when LSD was made illegal is that through the breath, that was really changing people's state of consciousness when they were under, let's call it, under sedation with LSD, right? So they created holotropic breathwork, which is a rhythmic breathing process against certain frequencies. And that, I can say that I've done 5-MeO DMT and ayahuasca, and holotropic breathwork has taken me as far, if not further. Mm-hmm. And that's not with anything in your system, right? I can say that when I get into a deep yoga flow, when I'm by myself, not in a class generally, that I fall into what would be an ayahuasca state of consciousness, right? Where I'm getting downloads, I'm seeing orbs shooting around all over me. So it's all about breath, right? The reality is we all have it within us, but because we're so distracted by everything else out there, and because we're so quick to want external feeling versus internal gratification, just for the aspect of being grateful that we get to wake up every day with breath. It's like when you're in one of these sittings and people are like, oh, what are you grateful for? I'm grateful for my breath, man, because like nothing else matters after that, right? Like, and then I'm grateful for my senses and my arms and my legs and all this good stuff, right? But before we even get to food and shelter, it's breath. Yep. And so I would have to agree with you that the original yoga was based on breath, but obviously then, as we got into Patanjali and the Yoga Sutras, it came into full body, and it was really about, okay, so now what does breath do with the body, right? And how does it affect your chakras and your nadis, right? That's the next step, in my opinion, right? Which is, most people are aware of their veins and their arteries carry their blood, but your energy is carried through your nadis and then transported to the chakra system. Most people think chakras, there's 7 chakras. There's actually 114, right? And then there's nadis, which are like your arteries that carry this energy between them. So they get blocked up by your senses and the physical interaction. So through breath, we clean those. So for example, the heart chakra connects the other 6 chakras with 108 nadis. That's why there's 108 yoga poses. There's 108 japa mala beads. There's all these significant things of 108 within these different cultures, focusing around that. There's actually 72,000 nadis that connect the other 114. But breath is the start of it all.
Right. Absolutely. And, I was speaking with a friend just yesterday, actually, and they were asking me, What are you thankful for? Because as of right now, when we're filming this, it's one day after Thanksgiving in the United States. And I always have the same exact answer, just like you were talking about. I go, I'm thankful that I get another one of those, because every single day, about 150,000 people don't wake up, or it's over for them physically. And half of them didn't even know it. So for me, just like with you, my morning routine is I first started off with a big breath and a hell yeah. That's for me. Like, yes, I get another one. I get to experience another day. Thank you. And I thank my higher self. I thank the divine. I thank God. That's just whatever it is. So I don't even want to put the divine architect in a box. I just thank all of creation that I get another one of these days. And then I go into my breathwork practices, and then into my meditation, and then into, I guess you'd say, mantra work. And so programming of my day. And for me, by doing that, and I know this is the same thing for the PSSM Global, because a lot of the people in PSSM, they meditate every single morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., 2 straight hours sitting just like this in a pyramid, or with a pyramid on their head, breathing and just following their breath. That's the only part. And the only thing about this meditation is following the breath. Well, for me, I still like to start my day off with a win. And the fact that I'm doing something good for myself, just like you were talking about, reading the scripture, feeding your mind, feeding with the Course in Miracles, feeding your soul, then feeding your body, getting it moving, having that energy. No matter how bad the rest of my day may go, at least I started off with a win. That's why I also make my bed, because no matter how crappy my day might be, at least at the end of it, I get to go and slide into a nice made bed. And that's just something that I like to do. So for you though, let's change gears just a little bit, Isaiah, because we want to talk.
Please.
When you talked about Dr. David Hawkins, one of my favorite books of his works is a book called Letting Go. It is just a life changer. So everybody out there, if you've read Power versus Force, once you do that, then I would recommend 2 other books of his that are absolute game changers, especially for meditators and people on this path toward consciousness ascension. The first one is Letting Go. The other one is called Transcending the Levels of Consciousness. It actually puts and kind of quantifies what the different levels of consciousness are, all the way from the lowest vibratory one of shame, all the way up into the highest level that you would get of the avatars and the saints. So let's talk about letting go. It's a really powerful, but it's a challenging concept in the spiritual practice. So how has the act of letting go shaped your path? And
Yeah.
that's a really important thing, because when I mentioned that you were working for Lehman Brothers and you were in the Twin Towers and you survived, but a lot of people didn't. And I'm sure that took a lot of letting go on your part. And so what advice do you give somebody else who's struggling to maybe release control?
Yeah, for me, that was a very life formative day. It was my first hour of work out of college, and got to the building an hour before, and that occurred. And I worked the year out in New York. There was a lot of distortion of static, let's call it that year. Yeah. I think it comes down to surrender, right? But letting go and non-attachment to me are the 2 biggest things that I've had to work on the last few years. 20, whatever, right? And you hit on it, right? Shame. Most of the limiting beliefs we have are brought on by shame. It has nothing to do with us, which are direct impact of these concepts of letting go and non-attachment, right? So non-attachment, what's that? Non-attachment is the concept that whatever shows up in my life physically, emotionally, possession-wise, I'm okay with it. When it leaves, I'm also okay with it. I'm not attached to the fancy watch like I used to be. I'm not attached to the fancy cars. I'm not attached to the relationships in my life. I love the people in my life, but if something were to occur that transcended that, I'm accepting of that. Yeah. Letting go is the emotional aspect that causes so non-attachment can cause harm, because when we hold on to things that should no longer be in our lives, we prevent the good from flowing into our lives, right? And these concepts are not easy. I work on this every single day. Letting go is the concept of, I always equate it to the analogy as I don't condone fist fighting, but like if you got into a fight as a little kid or something and you got a black eye, You're not going to punch yourself in the face when the black eye heals to remind yourself you got into a fight,
Ooh,
right?
ooh.
Yeah.
Say that again for everybody out there. Listen close. This is very, very important. It just hit me, and I haven't heard that before. That's very cool.
Right.
As somebody I was a martial arts instructor for the past 25 years, and I've kicked and punched a lot of people, and I've also been kicked and punched quite a bit. Never out of anger, though. It's always been to better myself and as a challenge to each other. But please restate that. That is beautiful.
You're not going to, so you get a black eye. I'm not going to punch myself in the face again when that black eye heals to remind myself I got a black eye or to remind myself about the experience, right? However, we constantly emotionally punch ourselves in the face again on a regular, hourly, moment by moment basis. We're rerunning scenarios in our head of what we said, what we did, how we reacted. And all we're doing is regurgitating, first of all, something that we're probably not even remembering correctly. We're also applying thought process to someone else. We don't even know what they were thinking in the situation, right? And the end result is for us to dredge up negative emotions that lower our frequency. Rather than saying, okay, like this occurred. I don't know what that person was thinking, but I know how I reacted or what emotions. I don't want that to occur again. So let me let go of that experience. Let me take the lesson, but let me not sit and digest that experience over and over and re-punch myself in the face a gazillion times for something that isn't going to change. It happened. It's done. There's a positive. There's no positive. There's no negative. The lesson was occurred. And I'm going to move forward and try not to repeat whatever came up that I was not proud of or that I was ashamed of. But letting go of that shame, right? Because that shame, like for me, I know personally, like I was heavier at a moment in time, because I didn't have not control of my senses. I was in this other business. And I remember coming out of an ayahuasca ceremony and I was thinking about limiting beliefs. And I said, man, I lost all this weight, but I didn't lose the weight, right? Of like the shame. And like, yeah, carrying fat sucks, like, and it's not healthy, but carrying shame, the emotional side, arguably can do as much physical and mental trauma as carrying the weight itself.